Over the last couple of weeks, I've been having a lot of conversations about the spring market with people. Buyers especially are looking at what they're going to be able to do in the next couple of months, and I always direct those people to a mortgage broker or lender early on in the process to make sure that they know what their financials are looking like. Now, usually when I bring that up, people don't really know where to start. They don't know a mortgage broker, they don't know a lender, and obviously I can help direct them to those people, but then the next stage of that is not knowing what questions to ask when you actually sit down with a broker or lender. What I'm finding is that a lot of people don't know what questions to ask aside from what kind of rates am I getting. That seems to be what's in the news. That's kind of what we're trained to ask about because it's an easy thing to advertise and market, but in many cases, there are other things that can be more expensive, more costly, or restrict you more than interest rates. This week, I am going over 4 questions that you should be asking your mortgage specialist when you sit down for that first meeting. Now, number 1, there are a lot of instances where people sit down with a mortgage specialist and they kind of get clouded up in, is this a full pre-approval or is this just kind of a chicken scratch idea of the range that I'm gonna be in? There's nothing worse than sitting down and spending an hour with someone to go over your finances and have them give you a ballpark range only to find out when you put your offer in that they still need all kinds of paperwork and some numbers can change. So when you're sitting down with someone in Ontario, the term pre-approval is pretty well known and pretty standard. And what each lender or bank or credit union is going to require for a pre-approval may differ. So when you're having that conversation, make sure to ask, is this a full pre-approval or what do you need from me to ensure that when I go to put an offer in, I know that I have done everything up to this point that I'm able to do. So the second question, you can get this answer from a few different people, but I often recommend people sit down with a broker or lender to talk about this, and that is, what are my all-encompassing costs going to be for the transaction? And this will include your down payment, your legal fees, your land transfer tax, any premiums for your high ratio mortgage. If you're getting an insured mortgage, there are going to be other fees on top as well. And sitting down with the mortgage specialist, they have a really good idea of what those total encompassing closing costs are going to look like for you. Question 3, how would my penalties be calculated if I have to break my mortgage during the term? Now, when you arrange your mortgage, you are arranging it for a set period of time, and that amount of time is called the term. This is different than the amortization rate, which is the amount of time it takes to actually pay off your mortgage, usually 25 or 30 years in some cases. Your term is likely going to be a 3 or 5 year agreement that you have with the lender, and for that set period of time, this is the mortgage arrangement you have in place. After that period of time, you're reevaluating and maybe re-signing with them again under different circumstances, different interest rates, in different conditions. There are a number of different ways that your penalties can be calculated. Some will be based on the interest rates related to the remainder of the term that you've signed up for. It could be a flat fee of some sort. It can really vary depending on if you're going with a bank or a private lender or going through a mortgage broker, and some lenders through that option. It can really differ a lot, and those fees can add up way more than any sort of interest rate variation could be. So it's very important to ask about how those penalties are calculated so that when your time does come to make a change in your mortgage, sometimes these things are out of your control and you just have to be ready for them. So asking these questions can save you a lot of money and headache, or at least prepare you for what's to come. Rolling off of that point, question number 4 that you'll want to be asking about your mortgage is it portable? When it does come time for you to sell your home and make a move, maybe you want to get into something bigger or smaller, you want to know that the fees related to shifting that mortgage from one property to another is not going to break the bank. Some people overlook them and they might get stuck with a single lender for what feels like the duration of their mortgage because the fees would be so high to move to another lender or to make a shift to another property. Those are 4 questions to get you started when you sit down with a mortgage broker or a lender. They will obviously have a lot more information for you when you actually get into conversation with them and explain your situation. And there may be specific questions that I'll recommend you ask, or your realtor will recommend that you ask, but don't forget that interest rate isn't going to be everything when it comes to your mortgage. It's important to compare apples to apples in what each mortgage is giving you and what your options and freedoms are within those mortgages to make the best decision. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. I really appreciate it. I hope these 4 questions are going to help you out as you start asking questions about your mortgage, whether it's time to revisit it because your term is almost up, or if you're just getting the ball rolling. I really hope this has been useful. If you want to keep getting these updates, feel free to subscribe to the channel here. You'll get notifications when I do upload videos. I really appreciate you watching. Take care, and I will see you next